Good morning, everyone. I wish I could see everyone out there. I can only see the podium, but I can see Jackie's. Hello to everyone online and in person, and thank you for being so flexible. Myself and about two-thirds of my class all came home sick from the village, so it was a beautiful experience, but a little tough on the respiratory system, I guess. So I want to speak to you today about something that lies at the heart of spiritual living, which is kindness. Now, this came to me because today begins Random Act of Kindness Week. And personally, every day should be Random Act of Kindness Day, if you ask me. But at the same time, I love reasons to celebrate, like Valentine's Day and other things like that. There's so many different things that, although it should be happening every day, it reminds us. So I'm hoping today that you're reminded of just kindness, different ways to be kind. But I want to take it a little bit deeper today. As you heard, the title is Not So Random Acts of Kindness. And just to make this a part of our norm would be, of course, the world in a perfect way, but it begins with us. So we can take that next step. And even the website is randomactsofkindness.org. And every year they have a different campaign. And this year, their campaign is making kindness the norm, making it normal. What would that look like in this world? So the Fillmores, of course, we know this. They emphasize the inherent goodness within each person. We call it the Christ. And they believe that by focusing on this divine spark within us, that we could cultivate a world like we're talking about, a world of love and joy, a world of abundance. But kindness, in their view, is not just a polite gesture. It's an active expression of our inner divinity. Really think about what that might mean. An active expression of that Christ presence within us. How might that show up in the world? It recognizes sacredness in every individual, regardless of their background, regardless of their circumstances, regardless of our opinion on how they may be behaving in the world, right? What if we just took a moment to remember that Christ's presence within everyone? I think that alone would cause us to be a little more gentle, a little more kind, if we just remembered the human before us, remembered that divine spark of divinity that is moving in and through and around our world every day, showing up as individuals in all sorts of different ways. Charles Fillmore often speaks of the open hand. If you really think about an open hand is of giving. It's a gesture of kindness, it's a gesture of generosity, a gesture of giving. This isn't just about material possessions, though. I mean, when we think of kindness, at least for me, the first things that pop in my head are like, you know, give to the homeless or, share a meal, hold a door. There are these outward expressions. And of course, that's a part of it, certainly. But the open hand really represents a willingness to share our time, our compassion, our understanding, our forgiveness. Oof, take a breath there. Kindness can be an act of forgiveness. And I know that's not always easy. But this open hand is really about approaching the world with an open heart, full of love and a desire to uplift others. And of course, we can't, like you think of that starfish story, you throw back the one starfish into the water. Well, we can't save them all, but we can save the one. The same is true with kindness. May not be able to shift everybody, we may not be able to help everyone to forgive or everyone to have an open heart. But our demonstration might change one person. That act of forgiveness, the act of releasing, the act of allowing the human in others the way we want the human to be allowed in us, to be accepted. And we all have moments, right? We all have moments where our behavior isn't so pretty. And my favorite prayer, you've I'm sure heard me say it before from Imelda Shanklin, is, Father, forgive me for expecting in the human that which can only be found in the divine. Wow, just to allow the human in another is such an act of forgiveness. But Myrtle Fillmore, in her writings, think about her healing letter, she highlighted the power of thought and feelings. She emphasized the importance of cultivating these positive emotions in us, like love and compassion. Those are acts of kindness. And also of letting go of negative thoughts, negative emotions. And that doesn't mean that our thoughts and our emotions aren't okay when they cross our minds. We can't stop what crosses our minds. And our feelings should all be safe to feel. But as we notice, as we just are mindful enough to notice when these negative thoughts and emotions come in, we allow them, like resentment, for example, or judgment. We notice that they're there, we allow them, and then we choose what to do with them. We process them. We look at where they're coming, and we choose to maybe not act on those ones that aren't so pretty, not even speak. This is one of those points of not so random. We've heard, I want to say it's Socrates who said, ask before you speak. Is it true? Is it kind? Is it necessary? Before you share something, is it true? Is it kind? Is it necessary? Even that's an act of consciousness, an act of kindness. Conscious kindness is what I meant to say. Still a little froggy brain, not feeling well. But think about that not so random act. Being mindful enough to notice where our mindset is, to notice how we're feeling, and then how can we radiate that love from the inside out? Kindness begins with a conscious choice. It's a decision to see the good in others. And I know it's not always easy, right? But it's still a decision to remember that the good is there, even when we can't see it. It's a decision to offer a helping hand, that open hand. It's a decision, it's a choice. We don't always make it. And that's not to judge ourselves for either. But it's a conscious choice over and over again. We wake up each day and ask, how will we show up today? It's a decision to speak words of encouragement. It's about radiating this love that we were given. Years ago, a friend of mine was at the end of her life with cancer, and I was in the hospital with her often and with her kids. And her daughter looked at me one day. We were sitting in the hospital room together, and her mom was sleeping. And she said, Miss April, do you know what I've learned from my mom's cancer? She said, I've learned that if you have something nice to say, say it. Say it. Now, we've all been taught if you don't have something nice to say, don't say it, right? Like, don't say something if you don't have something nice to say. But most of us, I don't think we're taught to say something nice when we have something to say. An act of kindness isn't just, feeding people or sending happy mail, which I love to do. Sometimes it's making that phone call to tell somebody why you're grateful for them or to thank them, or maybe just a text. Kindness is also practicing self-care. Really be true, and you don't have to raise a hand. I couldn't see it anyway. But really be honest with yourself for a moment and think about how often are you kind to yourself? When's the last time you did something nice to you? The voice playing in the back of your mind, is it usually your inner critic or the one that loves you, blesses you, forgives even you? Because forgiveness isn't just for others. Take a moment to really think about that. Too often we underestimate the power of kind words, a touch, a smile, a listening ear, an honest compliment, or just the smallest acts. And that can turn back to us in the form of self-care by asking for someone to listen when we need that kind ear, for asking for somebody just to be with us when we need company. The support that we give, like Buddha said, you yourself as much as everyone else in the entire universe deserves your love and affection. So these not so random acts start within and then ripple out to us, from us to others. In Proverbs 16:24, it says, and this one warms my heart, kind words are like honey, sweet to the soul and healthy for the body. And if you think about some of the studies that have been done, you've probably all heard about them. Plants, ice, water, the way it changes. But think about a plant. It has been proven that if you talk nice to a plant, it grows healthier. And sometimes we neglect them. I'll be honest, I don't have a green thumb. Plants tend to come home to hospice care in my house. I mean, I'll be honest, that's where I could do a little better. But how often do we do the same to us? At least a plant will wilt a little bit and show us like, help, I need help. Mine does. I have a fern and they're pretty good at communicating. It hollers at me and then falls over before it actually dies. So I'm keeping it going because it's really loud and clear. But are you loud and clear with your needs? Are you loud and clear with your kindness even? So often we take it for granted that our loved ones know that we love them, that we appreciate them. I had a friend recently, and she's been going through a lot. So I've been sending a lot of happy mail, a lot of little fun, videos and different things like that just to cheer her up. And the other day I got a message from her, in just a Facebook message that said, I so appreciate everything you do. And it just dawned on me that I wonder if there's ever days that you feel like I do. And maybe you need my support too. Now, I'll be honest, in my mind, and I didn't reply this way, but I thought, well, duh. Yeah. Yeah, I need the love and support too. I need the care too. I need to hear I love you and I appreciate you. We all do. But how often do we go through our day almost walking asleep and we forget to say thank you? We forget to say I appreciate you. Those little things that mean so much, right? So kindness isn't just for one day or one week out of the year. It's really a state of consciousness that we can work towards. And trust me when I say we have to work towards it. It takes practice. We can't go to the gym once and be fit. I wish. We can't eat one piece of broccoli and consider that healthy eating. I mean, wouldn't that be awesome? Same with kindness, and that's both to ourselves, the self-care, but as well as to others. Remember, our thoughts are prayers. So let's start there. Let's start by thinking and just noticing. Think to ourselves what is normally going through our mind and just notice. Go into that space between your ears and see what roams around there. The Untethered Soul, Michael Singer says in that book that we are not our thoughts. We are just the observers. So first thing we have to do is notice. And then if there's stuff going through there that isn't serving you, that isn't healthy for you, remember, not only is it affecting you, your mind, your body, and your spirit. Myrtle Fillmore talked about having to care for all of those, not just one or the other. But not only does it affect you, but then it ripples out from you. Have you ever woken up and just in a grumpy mood, or maybe you stubbed your toe on the table, or there was bad traffic on your way to work, and then your whole day rippled out that way? It's because we didn't pause to notice, to shift, to pivot, because it's going to happen. There'll be things that cause us to fall off track, that out of alignment, right? There's no judgment needed for that. And if we can give the same grace to others, imagine the gift that would be. But we can only do that if we begin with ourselves. And then let's look at what we're taking out into the world. I want to read you a quote from Lowell Fillmore, who was one of Charles and Myrtle's sons. Lowell Fillmore reminds us, he helps us to understand the concept of grace when he says, remember that the grace of God is God's love in action. God's grace is unlimited and so wonderful that words can scarcely describe it. When we use such words as mercy, forgiveness, compassion, goodwill, kindness, inspiration, and generosity to describe God's grace, but then they are hardly adequate to cover the fullness of its meaning. So what he's saying in there is, remember that this isn't just something to hold within. This is an action to take, an action that we can choose to take consciously every day. So let's think about, how do we go through our everyday? How do you move through it? When you have a nice thought, something to say, do you say it? Or do you hold it in? Think about that divine love that lives within each and every one of us. How often do you share it? How do you share it? And there's no right or wrong answer to this. This is just an invitation to notice. In Lessons in Truth, they ask the question, what is love in divine mind? Because, when we think of love and we think of kindness, we often think of those fairy tale pictures, right? The intimate love, the way we love when the person we love is doing everything we want them to. How often does that really happen, right? Or when we think of kindness, we think of, curing, homelessness and, feeding the hungry, these big acts, right? But in Lessons in Truth, it says, in divine mind, love is the idea of universal unity. And the first lesson of this course is, love is defined as attracting, harmonizing, unifying, equalizing, binding idea in divine mind. The ability to express love is the part of our divine heritage. But it all starts in the mind. And I mean, this is like a broken record, right? Everything in unity is about starting with consciousness, because thoughts held in mind produce after their kind, right? We are creating our reality with our thoughts. It's one of our basic principles. So it goes on to say, though, in the Lessons in Truth, in the lower kingdoms, which is, of course, this human experience we're having, This idea of love in manifestation as attraction, magnetism, order, harmony, and light. When love is expressed through man, we see it as devoted service. We see it as kindness and unselfishness, tender compassion, friendly cooperation, goodwill. Our hands serve as the hands of God. Remember, if God is moving in and through and as us, then we are that expression of God in the world. So these acts of kindness sometimes is shows up as patience. Sometimes it shows up as setting an intention in the morning. That's something I do. I have a friend, her and I every morning around 8:30 just text each other our intention for the day. Now that's not a to-do list. And again, random acts of kindness week, so many of us and myself included, I accept it as a challenge. I'm like, "Ooh, okay, what will I do this week? Maybe I send extra happy mail or, maybe I deliver cookies to somebody or whatever it is." They seem like these bigger deals, but so often it shows up in these little conscious choices as in the intention of what you want to bring into the day. So when I send my intention to my prayer partner in the morning, it's not an intention of I'm going to get this to-do list done and tackle this project and do that, even though those may be a part of my day. In fact, when I have a really busy day ahead of me, often my intention will look something along the lines of my intention for today is to be focused, to be centered in spirit. My intention for today is to be patient and compassionate. Who are you showing up as each day? And, of course, if you start your day by, tapping into something that triggers you, maybe it's turning on the news or maybe it is traffic. I mean, years ago, Reverend Carol Mullins heard me venting about traffic one day, and she said, instead of all the other thoughts we have, you could just bless the people as they cut you off as they do this. And I'll be honest, I wasn't ready at the time. I think that was my response to her. Yeah, no, I don't feel the need to fix that one today. We'll work on that. I'm not rolling down my window. I'm not using any sign language. I'm not speaking it out to anyone. I'm okay with it. But since then, she must have planted that seed in the back of my head because I so often will just turn on music or just be in a different space of holding a vision. In fact, the freeway 696 is getting ready to close again for 2 years. This happened just before COVID as well, almost my entire drive to work. Now, before, I was so grateful because the route that was closed was the route going home from work. Oh, well, now here we are, and it's going to be the half going to work. And at the time, my friend and I, that both had this entire route closed down completely, lots of opportunity to be less than kind, to say the least. We challenged each other. How about wearing, and I don't have it with me because I didn't plan to talk about this, but how about wearing a red nose? I have from, they always have Red Nose Month in May to benefit children. And we both wore our red clown nose on our way to work. And I'll tell you, I don't know if anyone else noticed because I was so busy at laughing at myself that I didn't even notice if anybody else was watching me. But it took me out of a place of stress, out of a place of overwhelm, out of a place of frustration. And that right there is kindness for myself and to others around me too. Because think about when you were in that state of mind, whatever it was that may have triggered you or pushed your buttons, you then show up to the next place, stressed and unkind, bringing that feeling of whatever it was. They say, don't bring your work home with you or don't bring home to work with you, right? But when we notice those feelings, we have an opportunity to shift, to pivot. Emmett Fox talks about that in the Golden Key. When you have a negative thought, turn your attention to God. And if we think about what is that? What is God? I mean, that's a very in theory kind of word, right? But God is love, God is joy, God is gratitude, God is all the good around us. And I'll tell you, whatever you go looking for, that's what you will find. If you go out into the world looking for what frustrates you, looking for what people are doing wrong, oh, you'll find it. It's out there to be found. You don't even have to leave your front door. Turn on the TV, you'll find it right there. But if you go out looking for what's good, you'll find that too. If you go out looking for the helpers, for the caretakers, for the dreamers, for the acts of kindness, they're happening all around you. Years ago, I had a wallet. It had a palm tree on it. It said, "Choose happiness." And if you know me, you know that every year, at least once, I do the 100 Happy Days challenge. And every day I share something that brought me happiness that day. And sometimes it's the smallest thing, peppermint in my hot cocoa. It doesn't have to be a major act. But the cashier at the drugstore said, Oh, I like your wallet. Too bad that's not possible. I'm like, what? Because you're not tuned in to what's on your wallet after you've had it a while. She said, well, you can't just choose happiness. I said, well, but you can. She said, how? I said, well, if there's stuff going wrong while you're working on what's going wrong, focus a little bit more on what's going right. They're both included. And her entire response was, huh. And I hope I planted a seed. Because again, kindness can show up just in sharing tidbits like that, just in sharing a smile. Eric Butterworth, who, another Unity teacher who I just love, he emphasized the practical application of these spiritual tools that we so often talk about. And how can we apply them in our everyday life? Just last week at the village, we each had to put on a workshop, and my small group talked about everyday unity. It's not just for Sundays. It's really easy when we're surrounded by like minds, isn't it, to be kind, to practice these principles. And then we leave the doors of the church or we log off the Zoom call and we go out into the world where people aren't necessarily acting like minded. And it can be a little bit more challenging. So Eric Butterworth reminded us that kindness is it's not a passive sentiment. It's really an act of force, and not like forcing people to see things the way you do, not forcing them to do things the way you want them to, but it requires us to step outside of where we're at, of our own self-centeredness, which that's a little bit different than self-care. Self-care is not self-centered. Self-care is not selfish. But this place where we're so focused just on ourselves and the way we want things, and we can genuinely connect with others when we step outside of ourselves and be willing to connect in this oneness, in this interconnectedness, knowing that every thought we think, every act we take affects everyone around us, not just ourselves. And that's what he's referring to when he says step out of that self-centeredness, not just here. Everything doesn't have to be here. Everything here is connected to everything out there. So when we can step out of just where we're at and look around and connect to everyone around us and perform these acts gently with love, then we are creating that ripple effect out into the world. Eric Butterworth said that we must treat each person as if they were Christ in disguise. Imagine a world where we did that. And some people's disguises are really good. They hide it well, right? We can probably all think of at least one. We're like, where's the Christ in that one? But the truth is, we know that it's there. And each person is showing up differently for whatever their purpose is in this life. But if we remember that we are all connected, that ripple effect of a single act of kindness can go far beyond anything we'll even know about. Think about a kind word to a struggling friend, a helping hand to someone in need, a simple smile. And those are outward acts. These small gestures can have a profound impact. They can lift someone's spirit, restore their faith even. And they can inspire people to pay it forward. And that's what I'm inviting you to be, a demonstration of the potential, the possibility, the unlimited good of the Christ within. Butterworth also spoke about the importance of self-kindness. And, we think of self-care often as the bubble bath or the massage or even brushing teeth, right? That's self-care. But self-kindness is really about monitoring our thoughts, being mindful. How are we treating us? Are you treating you like the people you love? Because I hope you're at the top of that list. If we aren't truly extending kindness to ourselves, then we can't really extend it to others. Are we judging and criticizing ourselves? And we're always judging. That word we so often think of as only the negative, but we're always judging. Sometimes we judge as good, sometimes we judge as bad. And when it happens, if in that negative way, it's okay, just catch it and notice. Do we make a mistake? Okay, we made a mistake. How can I grow from here? How can I do different from here? And the moment we can extend that to ourselves, we then have the ability to extend it to others. So we must learn to embrace these imperfections. And I know that's not easy. It's not easy to forgive others, much less ourselves. I think forgiving ourselves for most people is the hardest task. But what if you could accept the human in you the way you want others to accept that? The way you are willing to forgive those mistakes in others. If a toddler made a mistake, broke a glass, dumped milk all over the floor, you might, you might, tell them don't do that again or remind them, but you wouldn't beat them up for the rest of their life for it. But how often do we do that to ourselves and even to others? I was in a meeting a little while back, and someone was sharing with about how their sister was an addict and the challenges and the struggles. And she was answering this question from someone else who said, "How do you forgive when someone's addiction keeps hurting you?" And she said, the thing is for her, she came to a point where she realized that by wanting to change, fix, help, heal the addict, she had forgotten to love her sister. Wow, that was powerful for me. Remembering that human is a great gift, and remembering that within every human is that divine spark, is that Christ presence. Even when we don't see it, when we simply remember, Deepak Chopra says that healing is a return to memory of wholeness. When we simply remember, then that brings us back to that place, turning our attention to God, like Emmett Fox said, in that place where we can remember, that place where we can align ourselves with compassion, with kindness, with love. And again, not that the love that we love what they're doing necessarily, or even ourselves. We don't love when we make a mistake. And we don't, that's not what it's about. It's about loving from a divine essence, that agape love that says, I love the truth of who you are. What would that look like in the world? So I want you, if you're willing, to consider picking up your two hands and allowing one to be that giving hand that we talked about earlier, but also the other hand that we set boundaries with, the other hand that says, I need a timeout for me. As we interexchange these things, as we give and we receive, as we give and we receive, as we say, I'm at capacity right now, I just can't right now. Or right now, I need to take care of myself. I need to be kind to myself. We're giving ourselves that gift that we so often want to give to others. But when we're giving everything we have, just like a car, we run out of fuel. But when we allow ourselves that balance, we're able to be that full, whole, healthy self, which can then show up and be that for others, which can then have the state of mind that remembers to tell others something nice when we have something nice to say. I'll tell you, I think that lesson from my friend's daughter was one of the greatest I'd ever heard. And I'm pretty good about that. I send a lot of happy mail. I do a lot of things like that, but so often I forget. I forget to just say, thank you. You mean a lot to me. What you said to me, my heart needed to hear that. So as we go forth into this week, I want you to consider how you can not be so random about your acts of kindness. And those are good too. Those suddenly you feel like you just want to do something nice for someone, do that. Do those acts of kindness. Take this week to celebrate that. The actual day, let's see, I think the date is after the week. This week is Random Acts of Kindness Week, but Random Acts of Kindness Day is the 17th. So, go ahead and celebrate those extra moments of, those challenges to do the extra. But what I really want to do is invite you to think about how you can be not so random about it. Kindness is not a weakness, it's a strength. And it's a powerful force that can heal wounds. It can bridge divides. And boy, I don't know about you, but I see that this world is in need of some bridges being built. It transforms lives. Simple acts of kindness, the simple act of saying, I love you, I appreciate you, I hear you, I see you. Let us strive to live each day with this, with an open hand and also the balance of self-care, giving and receiving from a compassionate heart, a genuine desire to uplift others. Let us be an embodiment of this. I think that's what the Fillmores and Eric Butterworth talked about, an embodiment that radiates this love and light wherever we go. I hope you'll accept this invitation, and then I'd love to hear from you on how did that show up for you? What does kindness look like? What were the reactions you received? And how did you notice it as you went out in the world? Because as you go out to do it, to be it, you will see all around you that others are doing and being the same. So let's take a moment, breathe that in. Breathe that in. We were given the guidance. Thou shalt love thy Lord thy God with all of thy heart, and thou shalt love thy neighbor as yourself. So let's start with the self and see that moving forward as we go into meditation. Allow yourself to imagine a big ray of warm pink light surrounding you, embracing you, in the loving energy of God. I invite you to step into a thought that makes you feel safe. Maybe it's a place or a person that you feel really safe with. And step into that space now. And notice when you feel safe, where you feel it in your body. What are the thoughts that come with that feeling of being safe and whole, protected? I invite you to imagine that bright light coming down through the top of your head, touching every thought, every memory, moving through your body, through your vocal cords of expression, through your heart of emotion, through your lungs as you breathe, down through your torso, your knees, your legs, through the bottom of your feet into the earth, connecting you in this safe, sacred way to the entire earth, to the universe. Now bring that bright, warm light back up through your body, to the top of your head, and allow it to go out into the world, taking with it the love and the safety of your heart, and sending it out to your friends, to your family, this feeling of safety, this feeling of security, this kindness, this warm love. And picture people that you love and that you've been holding in prayer surrounded in this loving light. See them filled up with this feeling of warmth and security, this feeling of being loved. Now, from our hearts, let's send it out again a little bit further, out to our community, out to our state, out to our country, reaching into the hearts of each and every person, sending a sense of love and faith right where they are, right into their heart, in a way that means most to them, to the people who may be feeling lack or feeling like they're lost in the darkness at this moment. Send this light to radiate into them and through them, offering them that spark of hope. We can so often believe and remember for others more than we can for ourselves. So in this moment, we remember for others that right there within them, God is. And now bring that love, that light back into your heart. And picture in your mind's eye an act of kindness that you can gift to yourself, whatever that looks like for you. Bring to mind a way that you can love yourself greater than you've ever loved yourself before. Maybe today you can forgive yourself for whatever it is you've been holding on to. Maybe today you can forgive someone else so that you can be free from the burden of carrying that around. Maybe today you take a moment to breathe, to rest, to pause. There's great power in the pause. Whatever it is that comes to your mind, consider giving yourself that gift today. And now just scan your mind and your body for any place where you may be holding on to any resistance, to any tension. And give yourself permission to and to let go. And now let's take in a deep collective breath. And as you exhale, give yourself permission to release anything you hadn't already let go of. And as you begin to bring your attention back to this space, I invite you just to notice if there was any resistance to that loving of yourself, to that kindness. And if there was, just send some love right there without judgment. And as we come back to this space, allow yourself to put your hands on your heart and just be grateful for the love that you are, the love that you bring into this world, and for the love that ripples out from you even when you're not noticing, because that's the truth of you. That's the truth of all of us. And when we return to that memory of wholeness, kindness becomes love in action. We become kindness. And so it is. Thank you.